My name is Wayne Adams, and I'm the Assistant Director of Sports Performance at Old Dominion University. It's a school down in Norfolk, Virginia, right near Virginia Beach. And my responsibilities here are I work with the baseball program. That's kind of my primary responsibility. I travel with them. I'm at practices, so it's really like hands-on for baseball. I also am in charge of programming and going through the workouts with volleyball, men's and women's tennis, and our sailing program.
Yeah.
So those are my other team responsibilities as well. Prior to being here at Old Dominion, I was the director of sports performance at Catawba College. It's a little D2 school in Salisbury, North Carolina, kind of outside Charlotte. It's in between Charlotte and Winston-Salem. And that was a great experience. I was there for about 2 years. And so, I had the director role and had the experience of running the department and managing budgets and all those things that strength coaches don't really think about when they get into the profession. So it was really cool. And I kind of learned what I liked and what I didn't like about that setting or in that role. Prior to that, I'd kind of been up and down the East Coast. I had a bunch of assistant positions, a GA position, and did a bunch of interning as well. So I'd been at Sacred Heart University for 4 or 5 years. I'd been at Morehead State University. I got my master's degree there. I was a GA. I was at the University of Richmond working with football for a little bit. I was at Wake Forest for about 2 years. But this was before their department was split up. So when I was there, we worked with every single team, so football included. And then prior to that, I was at James Madison University, which is where I got my undergrad and where I first kind of started in the field. It all started through an internship that I did with our strength and conditioning coach there.
Was the world of sports always something that you were involved in and interested in?
Yeah, I've played sports my whole life. I loved it. I'm not a super social person, but I felt like I always did well in sports, and I was just more comfortable, whether it was on the baseball field or football field. As I got into middle school and getting into high school, I kind of settled in on wrestling. I primarily wrestled in high school. I played baseball a little bit, and I played football for a single year, but primarily just settled in on wrestling then. Kind of a small guy, wrestled, like 119, 125. So football wasn't the best fit at that point when everyone else keeps growing and you're kind of the small guy and you're cutting weight for, later in the year too. So just kind of made more sense for me to do that and started doing that year round through folk style and then doing some freestyle and Greco stuff in the summers.
Gotcha. And in your high school, was there a strength conditioning program that you got to take advantage of or learn from at all?
No, there was not. So at my high school, there was this little gym. It was called Mike's Olympic Gym. Mike Craven, he's a great guy. He ran that gym for a long time, and he would let all of the athletes come in there for a discounted rate, and he would give us basically 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. before classes or before school started. We could go in there. So I did do that a little bit, and he would come and help us with our form. And, he gave us a really basic program, but it was awesome. And, most of us wrestling guys would go in there together and kind of get it done. But we were very fortunate to even have that because we didn't have a weight room or, like a real strength coach for the school or anything like that. So we were very fortunate.
No, that's really cool. I think that kind of thing right there just is cool stuff that pushes people into the right directions, whether it's with sports or strength conditioning or whatever it is, even if it's in a completely other field. It's just like, how can people give back and help, the youth or whatever you call them, the kids of the generation, like move in the direction that they in a positive direction, I guess. So, on those lines, like what pushed you, what made you want to, pursue a career in sports performance?
Well, it started with an internship. So I went into college as a statistics major. I was always good at math and things like that, and I kind of realized that that was not very enjoyable. It's nice to be good at something, but I wasn't enjoying my time in those classes. So I did a major change my freshman year, and I decided that I wanted to do kinesiology. Just kind of learned about it. I liked the idea of being a physical therapist. So that's kind of what I was gearing towards. And so I was taking the classes and I needed to get an internship. I tried to get one at a PT clinic that was close to the school, but they were filled up. And my advisor said, "Hey, why don't you try strength and conditioning here? You can work with Greg Werner, who was our director there at JMU for a long time." And I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll give it a go." And just kind of fell in love with it. Between him and Callie Williams actually ran our internship program. They were so hands on, and I felt like I learned so much. And it was just such a cool setting, getting to be, around teams and that camaraderie. So I really kind of liked it. And I pretty much changed my whole, course. I stopped taking some of those pre-PT things that I needed to, and started doing more of the sports nutrition and things that I thought would help me in this field because I thought that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's really cool that you got to do that early on. I actually did my internship after I got out of school, and to me, it was just mind blowing how much information I picked up in that internship. How do you think, you benefited from getting that experience early on?
Well, I benefited a lot for sure. Because I've never been the most like outgoing person or anything like that. So kind of being forced into, you know, all right, you're going to run the warm up today, or things like that, things that really pushed me out of my comfort zone when I was younger. It helped a lot. It gave me a lot of confidence in myself and in my ability to actually maybe succeed in this field. So, I was really thankful to be kind of put in those situations early because if I already had my degree and I was then maybe put in that situation, I don't know if I would have handled it the same. Maybe I would have been really thinking about like, oh shoot, should I be doing this or do I need to, try to get another job? So I think it helped me out a lot just from being put into those uncomfortable situations fairly early.
Right. So after you kind of get through with school and uh, at least the undergrad part of everything, and you move into a more of a non internship role in your in the strength conditioning room, like what differences did you kind of feel once you had a little bit more knowledge and education going behind, not with the internship already, like how do you think you grew as a coach even just after a little bit of school and a little bit of hands on?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think I grew pretty well. I've been surrounded by great mentors, people who really, once again, kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone, but did so with all the love in the world. And I knew that I had good relationships with them and they believed in me and they pushed me to succeed in those kind of roles. So I'm really fortunate for that. Um, but as far as like myself, I think I grew a lot, mainly from the confidence of it. It's really easy to, I'm very analytical and I'm constantly, is this the right thing to be doing? I was always like ripping my programming apart and things like that. And it just, it forced me to be really comfortable with, all right, I made this decision. I need to stick to it for a month. Stop looking at it. Stop trying to change things up. It's never going to be perfect. Let's just see what we can do in this amount of time. And then we can kind of reevaluate. So that really helped me a lot. And that helped me with myself too. So I'm not always like changing what I'm doing. I'm a little bit more disciplined on a program, things like that. And it helps me to educate the athletes too, because We all know the weight room can get monotonous. It can get boring at times. But trying to, let them know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, keep pushing. I think that's probably where I grew the most, was just the mentors telling me, hey, just relax a little bit. Just trust the plan. Trust the plan. You did a great job. This looks great. Let's run through it, and then let's see if there are any issues. Don't always be looking for issues.
Yeah. And I think one of the hardest parts to kind of grasp, at least for me, is this idea that like, we learn certain things in school, like, okay, this is how you do it. And then you take the test and there's one right answer, A, B, C, or D or whatever. And then you get into a weight room and it's like, and you start talking and hearing from different coaches, and social media especially kind of exacerbates this. And it's like, am I picking the right answer with what I'm telling these athletes to do? And in reality, there's just so many quote unquote right answers. There's so many right ways to do it. I can imagine, like, with your background or with your kind of proficiency with math, like how that would kind of even be hard, because it's like in math, there's an answer, and in strength conditioning, it's like there's 10 million different right answers.
Yeah, for sure. It's very difficult, and I catch myself, all the time wanting to change things up. And it's no, just let it be. Let it be. Things are going good. I think we're going in the right way. Let's just not mess with it right now, and take notes on the programming, or whatever block we're in. And maybe next time, if we ever run through this again, maybe that's the time to try to push it. But don't try to do too much right now.
Yeah. And kind of like you were talking about too, it's like the monotony of how the weight room can be, we're going in, we're doing these same things. And how do you keep players? You kind of mentioned education, but how is there any other ways you kind of keep players like looking forward to coming in and kind of doing the same thing a little bit over and over again?
Yeah, try to keep it interesting. Try to cultivate an atmosphere where the weight room's fun. It's not always fun. There's times where you just gotta put your head down and get to work, for sure. But I'm, especially now, I'm getting more into my career, much more so than earlier. I let there be a lot more autonomy. There's a lot more goofing around in the weight rooms with me now than there were probably 5, 6 years ago. I'm fine with that, as long as we can still get the work done. And so as long as we can kind of walk that line, I'm fine with it. But that's that's probably the biggest thing to keeping the monotony of the program from not getting to people, is letting them have fun with it. And on top of that, I try to incorporate some more, fun exercises and things like that, that are probably beneficial to the sport, but also aren't going to be taking away from our main work, the stuff that we're really trying to accomplish. So, like, med balls are a great one. Like, there's so many uses for them. Just throwing them, going outside, throwing them as high as you can, with things like that. I think that can kind of help break it up. And it's really easy to change the type of med ball work we're doing every week too, so that doesn't get monotonous. So there is some variety in what we're doing. You finish
Right.
workout early, go have a little fun, do what you want to do what you think you need, and then we'll see you next time.
Right. So you kind of mentioned it right there, but I was gonna bring up this idea that, and it's more than, I guess, just an idea, but the fact that like people are respond very, very differently to different stimulus and to different exercises and rest periods and all this other stuff when it comes to having a team in there. It makes it, I think, a little bit more challenging to take into account everybody's differences. How do you do that as a coach who has to handle that many players compared to just having like maybe a personal trainer who has one person to deal with?
It can be very difficult. Of course, it can be a daunting task, if you let it be, though. So that's the biggest thing, is we're just, for me, we're trying to really just like hold on to those big rocks and make sure that we're hitting the big stuff, and we'll worry about the smaller stuff once we get there. And for some athletes, we don't get there because, their big rocks are what are holding them back, like the strength of the program and things like that. Um, but for the other one, the other athletes who maybe become more advanced, we start breaking things down a little bit more. And I'm very fortunate in my setting right now, where we have access to a good amount of technology. So Team Builder is really helpful for us. We just put the workouts on there, they fill everything out, and then, I mean, I can just go on to Team Builder and I can look at training load if I wanted to, or, all sorts of these metrics, and kind of see how a person's doing. Um, we also do jump testing on a daily basis that they come in the weight room. Every day they come in the weight room. We do some jump testing. We do some grip strength testing with our baseball guys. And, we're monitoring that kind of stuff all the time. And that's kind of dictating the program as well. If someone's, metrics are way down, we might pull back on them for a day, try to get them back up. So that's more recovery based. But then we run into, so like, let's say we have a guy and we're going to try him at catcher, but he hasn't been a catcher. So obviously that's a huge demand on the hips. So we need to start thinking about that. And, when we're doing our extended warm up stuff, there might be some more hip mobility in there for that person as opposed to the rest of the team. This guy is post-surgical from a UCL. So when we do our upper body work, he might be on a different implement than everyone else. So we just have those kind of little things based off of what people may need. Some of that is what we see as coaches, and that includes the baseball staff as well, right? Really any staff. We talk about this with volleyball, with tennis, with, all of our coaches, but what they're seeing, what I'm seeing, what we're hearing from athletic training or their medical history, and then kind of what they're telling us too. Guys, hip flexors are getting jammed up every time we squat. We're probably gonna maybe alter that squat a little bit. Maybe we'll take them a little bit wider next time, see if that helps, see if that makes them feel better. We might put them on. We're fortunate we have some pitch shark machines, so we'll put them on the pitch shark, see if that helps, and try to figure out what works best for everyone.
I think that one of the biggest things when it comes to like an athlete is just having the time and the commitment and the resources and things like that. And in a college setting, usually the resources are there. A lot of times, the time is there. But if you had even more time with like maybe an unlimited amount of time with athletes, 7 days a week for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, what else would you put into their schedule? What else would you put into the routine to maximize their performance, whether that be another, recovery day or something like that? Like, what would it be?
I think I would keep everything the same, but I would force them to go eat at these times. That's the biggest thing I see with college athletes is meals get skipped because we sleep in until 11 and our class is at 11, or we need to take a nap after that first class and then we go right to practice. So we miss a meal there. Or it's college kids. We're going out as soon as practice is done or whatever. So we miss a full meal there. So if I could just make sure they eat at least 3 times every day, I think honestly, a lot of our recovery type issues would probably clear up.
No, yeah, that's a big point. Do you have like educational stuff on that for athletes, like when they come in, or like ongoing, like about the nutrition side of things, about sleep, about hydration?
Yes, we do. So like this summer, I gave a little presentation to our baseball guys, just really basic nutrition stuff. What are your macros? Why is that important? What are good sources? What are bad sources? How can you make a plan? Why is hydration important? We talked about sleep as well. And we're always talking about it too. I'm monitoring their body weight and jumps all year long. So, when their jump starts going down and their body weight starts going up, it's time for me to have a conversation with that kid. Like, hey, we're trending the wrong way. Our power numbers are dropping and we need you getting better right now. Like, what needs to happen? So I have a lot of opportunities to have those kind of talks based on the metrics that we're constantly tracking. But I'm always talking about it as well. Well, we're also very fortunate. As soon as lift is over, they get shakes. So we'll give them shakes, and we've got liquid multivitamins this year too. So we're giving multivitamins to kids. So that's really nice. But it's always coming with, hey, make sure you go eat. And always trying to remind them, or the other day we had a scrimmage. We got to the field at 10 a.m. And my first question to everyone I talked to is, "Would you have for breakfast today? Would you have for breakfast today?" And you see the this look in their face, and they're like, "I didn't eat." And and they know that it's going to disappoint me. So maybe that's enough, to teach them a little bit more. But constantly asking them every chance I can, try to educate them. And then our director of Olympic sports here at Old Dominion, Eric Potter, he does a phenomenal job. But he is also like a food nutrition, I don't like the term guru, but maybe that's the best term. And if you follow him on social media, which most of our athletes do, he's posting like pictures and recipes of almost everything that he eats. And it's all super easy. He does it literally so college athletes have access to these really simple recipes that are really healthy for you. And anyone could do it. They're all super cost effective. He's not making, things that are super expensive. It's stuff that any college kid could have. And that's what he eats with him and his family. So it's really cool. And I've got a lot of ideas from him too. So
Yeah, I think that's cool to have those free resources out there, and somebody who's kind of on your side when it comes to that. So we're talking about kind of like educating athletes, and I think that's one of the biggest aspects to not just the athletic career, but post athletics as well. Teaching these kids how to live a healthy lifestyle, and the importance of eating healthy and drinking water and working out and things like that. But when it comes to athletes who may come to you, especially maybe early on in their career, maybe a freshman or something like that, what are some funny misconceptions that they have kind of come to you with, and you're like, oh wow, I really need to kind of set this person straight on this idea?
from a nutrition side, I mean, we hear it all the terrible information that's out there. Carbs are bad, you know. And then, oh my goodness, when the Netflix documentary came out, Game Changers or whatever, it's like everyone was going to go plant based, right? 'Cause that's what is best for everybody, and it's, just trying to talk them down. Like that might be okay for some people. Let's just not go gung ho into this in the middle of a season right now. Let's think about it a little bit more. So, on the nutrition side, I mean, we get it all. There's just so much bad information out there, and unfortunately, I think most of it is spread way too far, and the good information just kind of falls through the cracks. So that is a constant struggle from freshman to senior year. I get the craziest questions all the time. As far as training goes, I would say the two biggest ones are that just showing up and doing the program is enough. And it is for, a true freshman who never had experience in a weight room. That's probably enough to get you better, but that is going to plateau at some point. And trying to make sure that they understand that just showing up and doing what's written up for the day, that's like a bare minimum behavior, and that's good. I'm glad that you can do that, but we need to start building on that, and we need to start learning about the intent in which we do things. And it's not how fast can I get this workout done. Sometimes you need more rest in between your sets and things like that, and just little small educations about that whole process. And then the other one is, and this one hurts, it's that the weight room is boring. The weight room isn't fun. And there, like I've said this before, there's a lot of times where the weight room isn't fun. And that's because we got to put our head down. We got to get to work, or maybe someone messed up the last time that we were in the weight room. So this time we're going to make sure that everything's done, to a T. But the weight room doesn't have to be that way. You can make it that way, or you can enjoy the process. You can enjoy the programming, things like that. Hopefully you enjoy the success that you have from the weight room, but that's the hardest one, when an athlete comes in and they just instantly don't want to be there because their experience in the past, or what they've heard about the weight room, is that it's not fun or that it's not athletic. That's another one. Is the weight room is a great place to be athletic. It doesn't have to be these long, slow, grueling sets of terrible exercises. Like, we can have fun with it. And if you put in the work, in that base program, you're going to start having more fun, because things are going to start getting more individualized for you and what you need.
Now that you have some time in your field and some experience, and you got to kind of see it, what are some of the areas where you wish things would maybe get a little bit better, and just not necessarily from a school perspective, but from a whole field perspective?
I think that's a tough one. I think there's a lot of great in our field. There's a lot of bad too. But I think a lot of it stems from our evaluation process. It's kind of impossible to evaluate a strength coach from an athletic director's point of view. And a lot of times the things that we are evaluated on are, does the coach like us? Do the players like us? I think that's good, I guess. Like, I'm there for them. I would hope that they like me to some degree. I would hope that they respect me to some degree. But I don't think that warrants I did a good job. Did I make them better? I think that we need to figure out a way that we can better evaluate what strength and conditioning coaches do, so that then there's room for improvement. And you see it a lot in football and basketball now, where this strength coach is tied to this head coach. So this head coach gets a new job, this strength coach goes with them, and whoever was there at that school gets fired. Not because maybe the strength coach is doing a great job, but they don't have that connection, so they're out. And that's kind of tough. So it's really tough. That's the one thing that scared me a lot about this field, is it's really hard for me to just, I'm going to put my whole career behind this person. I think I know them pretty well, but am I willing to risk everything for them? Because if they get fired, that means I'm completely done. I'm out of a job. And now I have to go try to make a new friend in order to get a job. Not say, this is why I'm a successful strength coach. It's who likes you and who doesn't. And unfortunately, some of our field is going that way. And some of it's good, though. I mean, a lot of head coaches, they're tied to these strength coaches because they've done a fantastic job for them. And it's tough to see. And like I said, it would be tough for me to put myself and my family in that situation. So if we could figure out a way to better evaluate strength coaches, I know, I forget, I watched a presentation a couple years ago, and they were talking about the difference between strength and conditioning coaches and athletic trainers, and it's certification versus licensure. Is that something that our field should try to move to, where we're licensed? And does that, protect us more? I don't know. But then once again, does that put us in another situation where we're just harder to fire when you don't do a good job? Ultimately, I want the field to get better. We should be helping athletes. We should be helping coaches, helping departments get better. And if we're not doing that, we're not doing our job. And there are thousands and thousands of other strength coaches who want your job and will do it, and probably do a better job than you for half of what you get paid. And I think a lot of coaches probably need to understand that.
Yeah, man, that's very true. And it would be hard from a psychological perspective to just settle down in that one position and be like, okay, this is where I'm going to be. Let's just go all in on it. I think that's a big thing in sports, is just how the relationships, it's such a big relationships game in sports. It's like who likes who doesn't like who. Obviously the performance is important, but kind of like what you're saying, and I never thought about it like that. How do you say these results right here, these tangible results are because of, the strength conditioning aspect of what we're doing instead of, natural progression of an athlete or sports practice or whatever else. It's very hard. I never thought about it from that perspective. But do you feel like technology does help that in some ways at all?
Definitely. If someone were to come and ask me, like, how do you think you've helped this program? I feel like I could show them some data points at least. I could speak on my relationships and things like that, of course, but I could also show them some tangible data that, when this athlete came to me, this is how high they jumped. This is what their body weight was. This is, their power based on those two. This was their peak anaerobic power in watts. This is what their grip strength was. These were their strength metrics. And now, a year later, this is where they are. And most of the time, hopefully, it's going up, right? and most of the time, it does, because we're working with athletes who don't have high training ages. So a lot of times, we don't have to do anything too crazy to get improvements in those things. But for I think almost every athlete I have, I could show those data points. And then also, I think, if we were to look at injuries or injury rates with no strength coaches versus with strength coaches, are the strength coaches helping with decreasing injuries? Possibly. I would hope so. I mean, that's kind of our goal, is to help keep athletes healthy, make them more resilient, make them more robust. So, that they're more available when it comes time. And maybe that's the way that we go as well. And I think we could do that with our athletic training staff. Say, hey, what were the injuries like before I got here? What are they like now? Is there increase, decrease? Is it about the same? If it's about the same and the athletes are more powerful, I feel pretty good about what I've done. I think those are a couple ways.
So when it comes to awareness, when it comes to like a long time of coaching, you're like, oh, I didn't realize this trait about myself until it was kind of put in front of me by these people. What do you feel like you've learned from about yourself from coaching athletes?
A lot. I've definitely learned to be more patient, and some people probably laugh when they hear that, because I can get pretty hot pretty quick. So, it's still there. I still got a short fuse at times, but I think I'm definitely more patient in the day to day. I'm more patient with my programming. I'm more patient with athletes. I said it earlier. I let them have more fun than I was letting them have 5 years ago. Back then it was, the weight room is your job, and there is no fun here. It is, we're going to get the job done. And so it definitely, being more patient in that regard. I've also learned to be a lot more empathetic. And a lot of that is through some, you kind of have to do it on a daily basis, but there have been some times when I've definitely been in the wrong. Athlete showed up late, I remember, and I started ripping him and kicked him out, made him come back and do a punishment the next morning. And turns out he had some pretty heavy stuff go on in his life, and man, I felt so terrible. And I kind of changed the way I look at that situation. Like, you got to ask more questions, you got to be more empathetic, try to put yourself in that person's shoes, and not everything is black and white. And so I've definitely grown in that way. And then I've learned to take accountability of anything that happens in the weight room is my fault. And I need to look at it that way at all times. And then I need to get sold on, no, it wasn't your fault. But just kind of put the blame on me and look at the situation. What have I done in the past to let that person think that that was okay to do? If they were doing something wrong, and just taking more accountability of it. Someone, gets injured. It's not because they didn't get enough sleep and they didn't eat and they weren't ready and all of that. I didn't ask them any of those questions prior. I didn't set them up in, a position to succeed today. And that person got hurt in the weight room, and that's my fault. And how are we going to move forward now? And so, being able to be accountable for that, it's tough. It hurts the ego. It's never a fun situation, but it's definitely been important in my growth as a person.
No, I think that's really a big point right there is taking accountability. And it sounds like, I don't know if you're familiar with Jocko Willink or not, but kind of extreme ownership and just, everything has to come back to the person in charge because that's who is in charge. But, that's really cool. That's really cool to hear you say, and hopefully more people do take that, not just in the world of strength conditioning, but in the world overall. But man, it was really good to talk to you and to have you on the podcast this morning. And if people want to follow you on social media, if they want to kind of see what you're doing past this podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and it's at Coach Wayne Adams. And then my Instagram is I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm on there. I'm not as active as I probably should be. I go through spurts where it's all right. I really want to put out some, good media and things like that, and I'll do a really good job, and then I'll kind of fall off. And Eric, our director, and I joke about this all the time. We get so locked in when we're coaching, we forget to take videos and things like that. And it kind of sucks because we want to highlight our athletes. They do such a phenomenal job, but I definitely need to do better at that, and it's a goal of mine. So hopefully, I'll be a little bit better on those platforms as well.
Well, either way, I'll have those descriptions down or those links down in the description for the social media and everything like that. Go check out what he's doing. And like I said, it was really good to have you on. I appreciate you sharing some time today.
Absolutely. Thank you. I had a great time.